Hello, everyone. X-Wall-Kill Bethelite here. And let's talk a little bit about birthdays, because many of us that grew up Jehovah's Witness, we grew up not ever getting anything on our birthday. And a lot of other people who were Christian, they would still be able to have birthday parties. They'd have their friends. They'd have a good time. They'd get presents. Why is it that Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to celebrate birthdays and Christians are okay with selling or celebrating birthdays? And not to be offensive, saying Jehovah's Witnesses aren't Christian, but we got to find a way to separate the two here. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses, they believe God himself, God that created the whole planet, universe, everything else, is actually intimidated if a human being, an 8-year-old, has a special day for themselves. They look at it as far as Jehovah's Witnesses view, they look at it as something that might make their God mad because this person is getting attention on that specific day. Let that sink in. Jehovah's Witnesses, the one of the reasons why sometimes I separate the two groups, as one is Christian and one is Jehovah's Witness, because their gods are so different. For Jehovah's Witnesses, their God will get mad if somebody has some cake and people come over to celebrate a year of their life and they get presents. God will get jealous of a 5-year-old blowing out 5 little candles on that cake. I'm not making this stuff up. How ridiculous and childish is that? If I had kids and I got mad and I got angry every time somebody paid attention to one of those kids and not me for a short while, just for a short little party, just once in that child's life, once a year in that child's entire life. And then the rest of all the days they can, focus on me, but they just want to commemorate that child's, a day in that child's life or person's life to celebrate a whole year. That would have been childish. Anybody would say I was childish if I got jealous over little petty stuff like that. For Jehovah's Witnesses, that's how their God behaves. And when you think about it, the whole situation with birthdays is God will get mad if you give your kid that much attention because he gets jealous. And then B, there was something in regards to candles on the cake and blowing out those candles, which would make God mad. So there supposedly was some ritual that those candles represented a long time ago back in the day that did not have anything to do with God specifically. So, I mean, you can just envision this. Use your imagination, and you see somebody in Jehovah's Witness land, in Jehovah's Witness world, their God, in their mind, is fuming mad flinging his fists up in the air. You got these kids and they're celebrating their birthday. And they've got candles. And every time God sees candles and somebody blows them out, he freaks out because it reminds him of something that happened a long time ago that was probably connected to another religious practice. It is unreal. It is unreal. And we've already covered just how childish and selfish and just unreal that sort of thing would be. Now, let's talk about something that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And that's for Jehovah's Witnesses. Christians don't necessarily believe this. So this is not necessarily aimed at them. Baptists, Pentecostal, all these people do not believe God is throwing a tantrum because kids are celebrating a holiday and they're having fun. You know what I mean? Or they're celebrating a birthday and they blew out some candles that was on their cake. Like this stuff does not make Christians believe, okay, God is now fuming mad and volcanoes are exploding everywhere because somebody celebrated a birthday. We're talking Jehovah's Witnesses. This is reality. This is what a lot of people don't know about these people that go around knocking on doors, is their view of God. But for Jehovah's Witnesses, the whole reason God can't get mad at anyone else about a birthday, because it's his fault. If candles were used in some other religious practice a long time ago, most likely it is God's fault because he chose to make himself known exclusively to certain people. Like Abraham. So if I tell Abraham, hey, this is the way I want you to do stuff and I want you to let your people know about this, how am I going to get mad if other people are developing their own views of God and how they want to express spirituality? So if candles were used a long time ago for some other form of religious expression or spiritual expression outside of what we would view as biblical, that'd be God's fault. If you read, he chose to be exclusive. He chose, okay, you got all these people. Now, I can just go ahead and announce myself to all of them. I'm God, aren't I? I could talk to more than one person at once, right? We believe that God can hear multiple prayers all at once. So then we should believe that he could have talked to multiple people at once. He could have talked to all the important people. Hey, I'm God. I want you to do this, that, and the other. I don't want y'all using candles for this purpose and that purpose, or whatever he didn't want done. He could have done that, but he chose, I'm only going to make an announcement to one person and then spread that out to one group and then just watch you guys go to war and fight and kill each other because this other group, I didn't tell them anything. This other group over here, they have other gods or other view of gods because I never spoke to them. Of course they do. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. You got in the Bible, Israel is clashing and fighting, and they got soldiers dying. And then the other side has got soldiers dying when God could have just spoke to all of them. You know, when you have meetings at work, can you imagine how disorganized it would be at whatever company you work for if your boss just decided, I'm going to tell one person some really important information and I'm not going to let anybody else know? We would hold we would hold humans to a higher standard. Humans running a company, we would hold them to a higher standard. You need to communicate to people. This group over here in this department didn't know. So therefore the boss can't get mad that this department, who he told what he wanted, is getting things done a certain way. And then this department, who he didn't tell nothing, has come up with their own methods. Nobody would get mad about that. In Jehovah's Witness land in the Bible, the way they teach it, God does. God gets mad that he told Abraham to do things a certain way. And then these other people all the way over here, he didn't tell them nothing. They develop their own ways of doing it. I'm mad about that. Y'all need to go kill them. Like, this stuff is unreal. To be a Jehovah's Witness, you have got to turn off all thought. And that is the reason why education was such a negative thing. They want to say it's because they don't want to be around people who aren't Jehovah's Witness. They don't want kids to be around people who aren't Jehovah's Witness. They're going to have to get jobs. They're going to be around people who aren't Jehovah's Witness anyway. The point is, they didn't want them to be educated. I believe the leaders of that cult knew you gotta just not give this stuff very much thought for you to not figure this out, that this is ridiculous. We had for Jehovah's Witnesses, excuse me, we used to have what's called a book study, where we would study a book, and I can't remember the name of this particular book because we studied so many of them, but one of them, darn near every lesson, was about God getting mad that people were doing certain religious practices. And if you do it, I'm going to kill off a bunch of people. Dude, it's your fault that people are doing things differently because you didn't communicate to your whole company. You only communicated to one department. That's the Israelites. All these other people, you didn't tell them nothing. That's why they're dancing around trees and they have this method and that method of expression. You didn't tell them nothing. It's your fault. That's poor communication. How come it's not even hard to figure this out? We had book studies about this regularly, all about poor communication. If the world was God's company and he just decided to communicate to one department, well, it's your fault that other people don't know. It's the honest truth. It's the honest truth. If a boss of or CEO of a company tells all these departments, hey, this is the way I want things to go, and then things go left, well, then that's on those employees. That's on them. They knew full well and decided to do things differently. But just the simple fact that we know of other guys like Zeus and Athena, Amun-Ra, and all these others, if we're to believe that God just up and just talked to one group of people, well, that's poor communication to everybody else. Because they're getting these ideas from somewhere. Like anybody else would point the finger at the CEO. Anybody else would point the finger at the company. Anybody else would say, Marcus, you need to communicate. How are these people supposed to know what the hell you want them to do? I mean, it's first of all, I think that thinking about the kids that don't get anything on their birthdays and the kids that don't get anything on Christmas, a lot of that I think is just Jehovah's Witnesses being selfish. They just don't want to have to buy the kids something, because a lot of times when I think about birthdays and things like that, it wasn't that, okay, I just got stuff, but I got it on a different day. I mean, a lot of that stuff you had to buy yourself. You'd get stuff as a kid, but you buy it with your allowance money, or you buy it with whatever little job you had at Taco Bell or McDonald's or whatever, kind of first job you get. Yeah, you get stuff, but you buy it yourself. A lot of these Jehovah's Witness, a lot of that is just selfish. A lot of it is just simply, I don't want to spend money on my kids. Now, that may not go for every single person, but I think a lot of people, yeah, they got stuff, but they bought it themselves. You know what I mean? They didn't get as many things as the people that would celebrate birthdays and Christmas and things like that. They would get more. They would have more fun. See? And then the main problem I have, hold on, let me roll this window down. The main problem I have with the concept that Jehovah's Witnesses have about holidays, the concept that they have, that they got some deity sitting on a throne, getting mad, flailing around and just having a fit, throwing his crown down and just slapping the nearest angel and just going off because people had a Christmas tree. They celebrated Christmas or Easter. They had an Easter egg. All this stuff, you trace it back to him. All of it is poor communication. None of this would have happened if he could talk to more than one person at a time and communicate what can and cannot be celebrated. They had festivals in the Bible that were okay to have, but these things were only communicated to certain people. So all of it is his fault. If you look at it from the Jehovah's Witness perspective, and they believe God gets mad every time somebody celebrates Christmas and they put a Christmas tree in their house, because a tree a long time ago was used for something else. That was God's fault then, because those people didn't know not to use a tree for something else. Easter, let's go down the line. The Jehovah's Witnesses do things differently than other Christians because they're capable of doing things that make no sense at all. The kids dressing up like butterflies and whatnot and walking around and knocking on doors and getting candy and what have you. They got God just going crazy about things like that. I mean, it's like, you think God really is that concerned about something like that? I don't think there's kids involved in witchcraft and whatnot. A lot of them just they're interested in candy. They're interested in candy, and kids are naturally interested in stories and fables. This stuff is fun to them. Halloween in America is all about little kids. Now, if you have a group of adults and they're surrounding a cauldron and trying to create a spell or something, that's different. But Halloween is all about kids. In America, it's all about kids. It's not about adults. Matter of fact, I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and then the bad thing is I can't really celebrate Halloween now. It don't make no sense for me to be walking around with a bag getting candy from different people's doors. It's about kids because it kind of, your Halloween candy privileges expire after a certain age. So even Halloween, which is probably Jehovah's Witnesses' go-to holiday, to say, yeah, see, holidays make God mad. He gets flaming mad. You know, probably even that one doesn't make sense because that's just kids. It's a bunch of kids. God is mad because a bunch of kids get candy and they're dressing up and they're having fun. They're not going to believe, these kids are not going to believe in none of the stuff they're dressing up as once they hit the age of like 10. For Jehovah's Witnesses, God feels threatened by the smallest, most ridiculous stuff imaginable. The most ridiculous stuff imaginable. Jehovah's Witnesses thought that God wanted everybody to use the word Jehovah specifically, and he get mad if you called him God, like these people are out there. Until they figured out, it took Jehovah's Witnesses, the little while to figure out there was no J. It doesn't make sense for God to want everybody to call him something that was never his name to begin with. The Tetragrammaton, they make stuff up to try to come up with something. There's no real J there. It's not really Jehovah. But then you don't see them changing the name of their cult. They still call it Jehovah's Witness. They think God gets mad when somebody has candles on a cake, but they don't think God gets mad if they're all calling him the wrong name. Wouldn't you get mad if your name was Andrea and somebody kept calling you Andrea? Well, these people are off by even more as far as God's name is concerned, and they think he gets mad about everything else except for them calling him the wrong name for 100 freaking years. Just say God then. Then it would make more sense in Jehovah's Witness world to call him God something broad versus a specifically wrong name. Comment down below and let me know. You have to be a Jehovah's Witness. It's not about any kind of intellect at all. Nothing intellectual at all. These people are just all wound up about the end of the world and how they think they got to give out magazines and convert everybody. Otherwise, everybody's going to die at the end of the world, except for Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, this stuff is ridiculous. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. X Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.